I just want to welcome everyone tonight. Thank you for coming on a Tuesday night to join us. We're going to be learning about herbs on the homestead. Just so everyone knows, this episode is being recorded. It will be shared in a day or two on our YouTube channel, so you can watch it again if you missed anything and share it with others. Please make sure tonight that you're muted and your camera is off if you're not presenting. If you have any questions, please put those during the presentation in the chat box. And for those of you on the phone or who can't get your chat box to work, after Rhonda's presentation, we will open it up to questions. We are going to start off. I want to tell you a little bit about tonight's speaker. Rhonda Swartwood is from Hampshire County. She is joining us tonight talking about herbs on the homestead. She is an Army veteran and has her own farm. On that farm, from the Wind Farm, she has more than 150 chickens, 3 goats, turkeys, and ducks. She does part-time security work, volunteers at her local health department, and is taking classes to get her PhD in leadership. Her goal is to become more self-sufficient on the farm and expand her homesteading practices. And we are really excited that she was able to take the time to put this together and join us this evening. A few things from the Department of Agriculture. My name is Kacey Gantzer. I'm a planning coordinator. I cover the northern part of West Virginia, and I work in the Ag Business Division. One of our programs is called West Virginia Grown. This is our premier branding program in the state. As a member of West Virginia Grown, you will be put in our print catalog, and that's going to be coming out here shortly, and there's a little sample of it there. You're in our e-news, our market bulletin, and it allows you to use the West Virginia Grown logo in your branding so that your customers recognize they are purchasing a certified West Virginia product. If you're interested in joining that program or getting more details, I can help you or any of the planning coordinators, and we can get you all registered for that program. Another program in our Ag Business Division is our Veterans and Heroes to Agriculture. This has just been recently changed. We now are open to first responders and other heroes, so that is really exciting. This program provides mentorship, education, training, and scholarships for our veterans and heroes. There's some contact information there. If you would like any more information, we would be really happy to talk to you and get you all signed up for Veterans and Heroes to Agriculture. And our final little slide about the Ag Business Division are our planning coordinators. Like I said, I cover the northern region. You can see my counties there in orange. We have Nathan, Lacey, and Ashley. And don't worry, if you're in one of those dark blue counties, we sort of take turns and see who's the expert in that area or has the most experience, and we'll get you taken care of. Our contact information that is there on the right, or you can just call the Business Development Division in Charleston. And that is all we have for these slides. I'm going to once again thank Rhonda for joining us this evening and hand it over to her.
Thank you for that introduction. So I'm going to try to share my screen. Can everybody see that?
Yes, looks good.
Yay. Okay. So my name is Rhonda. I go by Rhonda Jean or RJ at times. So when I was asked to give a presentation about herbs for the homestead, that is such a wide topic. I wanted to kind of narrow it down a little bit, but realize there's a lot to learn. I mean, so much to learn. Hopefully some of my fellow herbalist friends are listening to this as well, and they will agree that a lifetime of learning, you'll still learn something. So it's never too late to start, and it's never too late to learn new things. So first considerations, like she said in the introduction, I have lots of chickens, turkeys, brand new goats. So there's a learning curve with everything. So these are some of the things, if you're new to learning herbs, definitely be patient. Things look very similar. I mean, right now I kind of take for granted that wood sorrel and clover, everybody confuses those in the beginning, or people think that Ragweed is actually goldenrod, and they blame goldenrod, which is blooming now in most of the parts of West Virginia, in the eastern area. They think that's ragweed. I take that for granted, so I kind of have to step back and realize, okay, there might be a lot of different levels. So be very patient when learning. Herbs, for the most part, is not a real quick fix. It is a maintenance. Especially, I don't like to do clinical for people like, oh, you have this condition, well, then take this. In general, that can work, but people are very different. They have different bodies, different factors that go into it. So this is more a good maintenance approach for overall good health. However, on the homestead, and we'll get into this in a little bit, I've learned some very important acute. My turkeys have blackhead. What herb do I use? Because I'm not taking a turkey to a vet. So there are some herbs that are very good in emergency situations. One thing that I did when I first started learning was never to learn any of the poisonous herbs. I mean, I made it a note. I don't even want to know what they look like. That way I'm not going to confuse them in the beginning. And over the years, I've come across like, oh, yes, I definitely know that this is nightshade. So in my mind, if I didn't know 100% of what it was, I did not eat it. I still don't if I'm not 100% sure, especially when you're teaching children. My 8-year-old niece thinks that everything is yarrow, and yarrow is one of those that, ooh, it could have some poisonous lookalikes if you really don't know, and especially if you're an 8-year-old. So that's just my recommendation. I'm not very good with scientific names, believe it or not. I know a few of them. Salix alba is white willow. That to me, is not as important, except when I'm looking for something, and then it is important. For instance, there's certain strain or certain breeds, I'm talking chickens, not breeds, certain varieties and species. There's over 200 different goldenrods. Most of them are safe, but there's some that work better than others. So the scientific name would be very helpful, especially when you're just learning. And going to greenhouses, that's one of my recommendations, is to really learn the medicinal ones. So the scientific name is very important, but I'm not very good at it. So I'm going to know my weaknesses, and so I make sure to pay attention to those. Like I said, differences in how herbs react to people. Valerian can knock my son out and put him to sleep, but for me, it's not going to do anything. So they are different in different people. Some are safe for children, some are not. For instance, you probably do not want to take St. John's wort while you're on birth control because it makes it ineffective. So just realize people are different. Definitely join herb clubs. I'm in Hampshire County, and we have a wonderful herb club that meets once a month. Even virtual classes, so you can do, and every month there's a different topic. So reach out in your area to find herb clubs. They're very welcoming. One thing I learned very quickly is there's no real competition between herbalists, or they all are trying to be very helpful and have people learn this. Online groups, the same. There's lots of online Facebook groups, homesteading groups that they actually go over a lot of herbs. Classes. When I first started, I went to a lot of different classes. For me, it started out a little differently than homesteading, but there's tons of classes out there. YouTube, my goodness, YouTube. I should be making money off of YouTube. How many hours I watch YouTube, because there's a lot of good information. Books. I do have a reference section at the end of this for the books. I have, I don't even know, 50 plus different books. I just picked some of the few that I am referencing in this, I have found very good luck going to Goodwill to find books. You cannot beat some of the books, and most of them that you see in that picture, I actually got at Goodwill. So definitely pick through Goodwill. You need about 20 different pictures of the same herb when you're first learning to really identify it 100%. Take pictures. I actually used to look in all my books, just leaf through it every single night, and when I would come across something on my land, I would say, oh, I've seen that somewhere. Where did I see that? And then I would reference the picture with the book and then where I found it. Volunteer. I actually learned so much by volunteering up in Shepherdstown, a herbal sanctuary. And one day a week for a whole summer, I just went there, and boy, did I learned everything about herbs. That is the most valuable experience you can have. International markets, I think a lot of times we take for granted the dandelion leaves in our yard, and we want to, spray, and maybe not most of us on Homestead. We probably want to be organic, but international markets have a lot of those things, or organic stores that are going to help you identify your herbs. So those are just some tidbits that I found over the years, can help you learn a lot better. There's many different ways to prepare an herb. Loose teas, once you dry the herb, tinctures. Tinctures can last forever. I mean, I have tinctures that I just pull out once in a while. I don't pull them out that's fine. My son they'll be handed down to my son. Oils, poultice, and I'm not going to go into all of these. I just want you to know the variety. A poultice is simply you chew it up and you slap it on a wound, particularly bee stings. I just harvested some honey and had to use some poultice on that of plantain. So just realize there's a lot of different ways you can take it or administer it to your animals as well. I mentioned this, usually the plants that cause the issue usually have the cure. Mother Nature is pretty good about that right beside it. For instance, goldenrod. Everybody thinks that's ragweed. Well, no, but if you pay attention to the cycles of nature, goldenrod, if you're starting to have allergies this time of year, well, goldenrod is right there. You're allergic to the ragweed, but goldenrod can be the cure. So know that as well. Picking it is the best. That wild crafting means basically when I first was looking at my property, I saw all this stuff that was growing natural. Nobody planted it. It was just growing there. So usually that has the best medicine in it when it's growing natural. Trying to start herbs from a seed is almost beyond challenging. Especially the little ones like lavender. Just go to a greenhouse if you can and get them, and that way you know what they look like, but then you can work your way up, especially if you're first learning. It's very hard to start them by seed. Be very mindful in harvesting. You may want, see a big patch of something and want to take it all because it's a rare herb that you never find. Well, that's the best way to totally eradicate a rare herb is to pick it all. So I usually use like a 25%. I don't ever pick more than 25% of one batch. If you spray, I mean, anything, if any weed killer, anything, I guess I'm maybe more particular about this, but if you spray anything, just don't eat it. If you're in question, if you're at somebody else's property or, a place where you think that, just don't even take the chance to eat that. So don't eat anything that's been sprayed. The one, I was trained by a couple of really good herbalists, and they said the best herb to use is the one you have, which makes sense because one confusing thing that can happen is when you're first learning herbs, there's, one herb can be used for 20 things. and the next herb can be used for those same 20 things. So there's a lot of crossover on the herbs. So basically, if all you know is yarrow and you have a cut or a fever, use yarrow. And of course, I'm not a medical doctor, so don't take any of this as medical advice. So I guess the why. These are just some of my brainstorming ideals that over the years, having a homestead, living in a city before the homestead, having animals, it is good for your general health. Emergencies, plenty of times. Like I said, I just had a bee sting the other day, which was a pretty good one considering I was stealing their honey. So emergencies, you're out hiking and your child gets stung by a bee. Well, let's crush up some plantain. It tastes good, tastes like mushrooms, and stick it right on there. And that is an instant soother. Supply shortages. When we had the sanitizer, we're running out of hand sanitizer. Well, I had aloe. That's, grow that in your house. So certain things like that I don't worry about because I have the herbs that can help that. Medicinal shortages, like I said, it doesn't replace acute medicine, but it can definitely help if you're in fairly good health. And even if not, there's plenty of herbalists that actually specialize in that. So I'll leave it as that. Food. This is a picture actually of a 10 weed salad that I love to pick in the spring and summer. It has 10 weeds that most people just throw away or try to kill, and that was salad. That's my salad. I mean, you can garden as well and grow some of this, but it's right there in your yard. Animals, that's my baby turkey when it was a baby. And like I said, I had an issue with turkeys and I knew exactly what herb to get. This is my mess of a garden. That's a brand new garden this year. I really expanded it, hence the cardboard, but companion planting. So that's a thing most people don't think about when it comes to herbs. So with my 80 feet of potatoes I planted as well horseradish, some other beans that work good with it, but horseradish prevents potato bugs, calendula, which is a flower that, and marigolds, and people know those most of the time, but you plant your dill in with your tomatoes. There's a lot of companion planting you can do for, again, an organic alternative to pesticides and sprays. Organic alternative can also be your cleaning supplies. I mean, I don't hardly ever use, I have bleach, but I use eucalyptus and tea tree. That's all I use. Thrift, I mean, it's free medicine right there, free food, free everything. And self-reliance, I pride myself on trying to be as self-reliant and not relying on, the hospital system if it would be strained. If I'm snowed in, people can't get to me because of where I live, I still have herbs that can help. And it's useful. My son actually put this one in there. It's useful everywhere. So granted, there are some regional differences, but I can go, to Missouri or to California and know, oh, this is a clover. So it's useful everywhere. This knowledge you can take everywhere. So hopefully that expanded your mind on why to learn. It's just not a peace, love, and hippie thing. It's actually very, very, very useful. This was harder to narrow down. There's hundreds and hundreds of herbs, but found wild, I wanted to kind of go over the found wild ones, and a lot of these are in season right now, so they really stuck out in my mind. But go back over this list, and I'm going to show you some pictures in a little bit. These are the found wild ones. Some of them you may have to plant depending on where you live, but that's a good, I guess, basic. Like I said, there's hundreds and hundreds of herbs. To grow, you can live in an apartment and grow garlic and ginger and turmeric. And aloe, for instance. So I have, and if you don't know what a lot of these are, then just keep them in mind. They're easy to grow, especially the root ones. So ginger, turmeric, valerian, horseradish. I mean, those are super easy to grow. And in fact, sometimes you get too much to where I have so much horseradish, it's taking over. White willow is aspirin. That's the salic acid. I always mess that word up. Salic acid is aspirin. So white willow has that. So like I always say, Mother Nature has the cure. So these are the ones that I haven't necessarily found growing wild. Sometimes you can, but these are the good ones to know to actually grow. So are there any questions right now before I get too carried on? Some basic ones.
If you have questions, you can unmute yourself. Or put them in the chat box.
Okay, somebody will just have to flag me if there's any questions.
I'll watch for you.
Okay. So my favorite, and now my son is 26, so he's, kind of grown up around this, but plantain, not the banana, but I hope this is a good picture because plantain is the number one. I think it is the first one I even learned. When you have a sting, chew that up, and it's slimy, but put it right on the sting, and boy, does it make it feel so much better. Antimicrobial, almost anti-everything. Plantain is one that, as long as it's not sprayed, if you need it in a emergency situation, those little seeds right there, you can grind up and make a really good bread out of it. It's like a flour you can make. Aloe burns and cuts. I'm always using aloe as well. Goldenrod, and I have pictures in a little bit for this. Goldenrod, allergies. So fall allergies, goldenrod will definitely help. In the spring, dead nettle is another one of my favorites that helps the spring allergies. So like I said, pay attention to what's blooming because sometimes the cure is right there. Garlic, I just harvested 65 bulbs of garlic. And if you don't know garlic, you only need one little clove, stick it in the ground, in the dirt, and leave it for 6 months, and there's your garlic. So it's the most easy thing to grow. Garlic is one of those that you just have to have. And if you're going to buy garlic culinary or, otherwise, then just grow it yourself. It's so much easier and better. Yarrow and white willow is one of my favorite fever busters. I've had somebody that I know a few people that just literally refuse to take medicine, even an aspirin, and that's fine. But one time I had somebody that had just a tremendous fever and it needed to be broken. And one little cup of yarrow tea I made for him, and it was just it helped it. The fever went away like almost immediately. So yarrow is one of my favorites, as well as white willow, without the negative side effects of medication. Lemon balm. Lemon balm is one of those invasive, like peppermint, invasive mints, but I really love the invasive mints. Lavender, it's calming. And I do, like she said, I am getting my PhD, so I have poured through scientific articles about herbs, and there's a lot of good evidence for, especially lavender, a lot of good scientific evidence that backs up the claims of lavender, tea tree oil, a couple of the other ones as well. So a lot of these are well studied. St. John's. That's a beautiful one. That may not grow wild, but I have it wild on my land. Valerian, like I said, is one of my son's favorite ones. He actually has it growing outside his house. You know, instead of instead of the pharmaceutical drugs, you know, a couple of tincture or tea of valerian or lemon balm or can really do your mood very well. So not just for people, but for animals. So this is definitely, I've had chickens, good gracious, over 12 years. The turkeys just came about 5 years ago, and there was a learning curve with that, especially with young turkeys and a couple of the very wet summers and springs we had. My turkeys started getting blackhead, and oregano saved them. So a little bit of oregano. I put it, even my big mama turkey that's left now, every once in a while she has some breathing issues, and I just put a little bit of that, and she's good. So goldenrod is an interesting one. Sometimes the animals know what they need. So my dog that passed for like 2 years, and my dog now, anytime they have some sort of a stomach issue, it seems when they go outside, they go straight for the goldenrod. So they love to nibble on the goldenrod leaves, and it tastes good in salad, but animals love to nibble on things like that. Dandelion as well. When I had rabbits, the dandelions, loved that. That's very good for your lymphatic system. It's also a diuretic, but you know, if they're stopped up a little bit, you'll see dandelion, especially my dog, nibbling on those. Cleavers, oh, and I don't think I mentioned this. So cleavers, it goes by a lot of different names. So some of these, you may have like somebody in one part of West Virginia, like, oh, that's called bedstraw. Oh, I know it as cleavers. Oh, I know it as the scientific name. So keep in mind, there's probably about 10 different names for almost every herb that you have. So cleavers is a good one as well. Upset stomach or skin. I've made some washes for my dog when he had a hot spot out of cleavers and a couple of other things. So that's a really good one. Catnip, probably everybody knows catnip. So it can calm, or of course in cats, give them euphoria. In people, I find that it's more calming. So catnip actually knocks me right out. Catnip and skullcap. So it depends on the animal as well as depends on the people. My cats don't even care for catnip. So skullcap. If you have a skittish animal, a skittish cat, I've seen this work wonders just to make them a little less have anxiety, especially if you're coming from a new home. Skullcap, and I'm talking a couple of tincture drops, which is nothing in their water. Black walnut, I actually have my water troughs for my chickens and goats. I have them connected, and I have, of course, a lot of walnuts and a lot of trees with tannins in it. So the tannin is what gives it the bitterness. Well, that's also a dewormer. So black walnut can help in that. So I actually have them falling into my water troughs, giving it kind of a medicinal property in the water. Fire cider. So fire cider, and us as herbalists can now call it fire cider. This is an old remedy that works wonders. And if you ask 10 herbalists their recipe for fire cider, you're going to get 10 different recipes. So why do I have this on animals? People drink fire cider as well. It is a teaspoon of awfulness that during the winter, 1 teaspoon a day just goes a long way. So in animals as well, just a quick splash of that in a water trough for, when the times are, bad weather, stressing the animals. The fire cider, which is, like I said, composed of a lot of awful things put together, but really does the trick. I put for instance, horseradish, cayenne, echinacea, some citrus, about 10 other things that I'm drawing a blank on now, but it's ginger, garlic, turmeric, a lot of onions. So if you can imagine drinking that, but it is really good for your health. So fire cider for people and for animals. So this is why I say have 20, 30, as many books as you possibly can, because these pictures I actually took in the last week from my property. And I just want to briefly go over them. Nettle, stinging nettle, you'll know it if you touch it. I just harvested a whole bunch of stinging nettle. It is touted as the most nutritious plant, even more nutritious than spinach. And I make such a good, once it's dry and I boil it down and blanch it, I make such a good quiche out of it. So these are things you can pick during the spring and summer and save them for your soups or whatever you can cook with them in the winter. Peppermint. Peppermint is a great energizer. I make a good bug spray with some peppermint, some spearmint, some couple other things, and some witch hazel. And that works really great, especially when it's hot. Just a spritz of that. If you keep it in the fridge, it's even better. Plantain tastes like mushrooms. Plantain is wonderful for stings and bug bites. Lemon balm is one of those invasives that I don't know why anybody would want to get rid of it. It makes a wonderful tea, smoking cessation. So I have a friend that has her an herbal store. I don't sell like blends or anything, but she has a smoking cessation where they use a variety of lemon balm, mullein, which is on the next, some peppermint, and boy, it's really good. Yellow dock. So as much as you know about herbs, you can always find something different. So looking this up today, I learned in one of my books that, oh, I just lost it. Yellow dock actually removes rust. It removes a couple of things that I've never used yellow dock for. I usually use it as like a blood tonic, a purifier, but yellow dock, you'll see it's kind of wilted in most areas right now. I put that on there. I don't use yellow dock a lot, but it's pervasive right now. So you probably can look back on these slides and say, oh, that's what that is. So I tried to take good pictures of that. Wood sorrel and clover. So wood sorrel is definitely different. My wood sorrel tastes like lemonade. It is got the heart shapes, as you can see right there, versus clover, and this is like an Asian clover, but clover only has the 3 or 4, if you find 4, lobes of it. So one is a heart and one is, they both are edible and medicinal. Wood sorrel, if you have like popcorn stuck in your teeth, or you just want to make a real refreshing lemonade drink, wood sorrel is what you want to chew up. My son just walks around the property eating wood sorrel. It's that good. But yeah, if you have like a popcorn stuck or a cold sore in your mouth, wood sorrel is what you need. So that's why I have these separated, because they are different plants. Some other things that are popping up right now, staghorn sumac. I made a really great tea just out of those red berries of the staghorn sumac. It tastes like lemonade and some rose petals. So that turned out really good. Elderberry. My elderberry is not quite ready yet. So that one purple picture, elderberry for colds, flus, basic immunity, elderberry is the way to go. And this is where you really have to know your herbs. And I know this is a kind of an herb. It's a tree, a bush, but you don't want to pop these in your mouth and eat them. You could probably do a couple, but this is one that you have to boil it. You have to boil the cyanide out of the seeds. You know, birds, they have a different processing than we do when they eat them. So this is one you can make some great syrup out of. So it's wonderful. Calamus is hard to take a picture of, but calamus is Calamus is one of those herbs that I wonder why it's not banned. I don't know if anybody remembers the small, like, mini thins they used to have back in the 80s that are now banned that have the plant ephedra in it. Well, calamus gives me the same kind of focus. So calamus is the root of the calamus plant, which grows around swampy areas. You can see like old farmers chewing on it because it does give you some energy. And this is the best picture I could get of St. John's, but St. John's wort is another good one for mood. But like I said, indicators with any birth control pill that you're taking. So definitely don't want to mix the two. And for all of these, you really, like, if you're taking other prescriptions, your doctor should know about these. There are some, like skull cap is not good if you have liver issues. So definitely important to know yourself, know your animals, of course. Animals are a little bit easier, I think, than people. Here's a few more. Dead nettle, or catnip, I should say, is right next to my garden. That's my garden. And that keeps a lot of the cats away. Not my cats don't go in my garden, but any of the stray cats, or it keeps them at bay. Dead nettle, this is dead nettle or purple nettle. This is great in salads, but it's also, like I said, the spring allergy. Goldenrod, this is one variety of goldenrod. I mean, goldenrod is just a wonderful plant. I was once at a survival school where a guy literally, like, almost chopped his finger in half. I mean, it was gushing, and we just took some goldenrod and packed it in there. Of course, that's, if you don't have anything else, or if you need to stop the bleeding and don't have anything, that worked wonderful. Dandelion, I don't know what you can't make with dandelion. Dandelion wine, you can dip them in oil and put a little bit of flour and fry them up. Eat them just plain. They're good for the bees. So a lot of these, why do I want to eat a dandelion? Well, if you're on a homestead, you're probably not flowing in the farming money. So I really like the thrifty aspect of, for instance, dandelions or dead nettle. I can make all of these and put them in a salad, and it's good. And you'll find the blend that you like. Mullein is another good one. I'll speed it up a little bit here. So mullein, cleavers, there's yarrow. Like, if yarrow's got a lot of things that are a little funny if you're not really keen on what yarrow is. There's a lot of lookalikes if you just start out. Echinacea is another one of those really popular selling ones. And people plant these. Some of these are actual, like, cone flowers. You go to, Home Depot or wherever, and they're selling cone flowers out there. So a lot of the herbs actually you can buy. Horseradish, like I said, right next to my potatoes. They did a really good job this year keeping away the potato bugs. And I actually I couldn't find my horseradish because it had died back. So I bartered with a local herbalist, and she gave me so much horseradish. So my potatoes were saved. Valerian does have a flower, but that's what it looks like right now. Lavender kind of looks like rosemary, but once you smell lavender, you kind of, know what lavender is. Aloe, this is one of my baby aloes that I've been growing aloe for the same plant for like about 20 years, and this is a baby offspring of it. Very handy. I've actually made some aloe peppermint soap out of it. So aloe is just a general burns, you name it. It's good for your skin. Here's some of the tuber ones, or root ones. Ginger, super easy to grow. Turmeric. All I did was go to an organic store when these were in season, get an organic root, stick it in the dirt. That's all it takes. Garlic, same deal. Oregano is just a really good medicinal one. I really like oregano for the chickens and the turkeys. Oops, and here we are. Those are all my tinctures and the dried stuff I have, and some of my books, and of course my baby chickens. And here are just a few of them that I have listed, but like I said, there are 1,000 more. So I didn't know if there's any questions. I can talk a lot. I hope I didn't talk too much.
That was wonderful.
I have a question now.
Can we get you to mute Rhonda so that they can say their questions? Thank you. Ross, did you have a question? We'll start with yours.
Yes. See, you mentioned garlic in there, and I was wondering, ramps is an herb, since I think they're in the same family.
Are you asking if they are? Medicinally, I don't use ramps medicinally, but boy, I sure do eat them. So they're different, but yeah, the same species. And that's the thing, is like sometimes when you see, oh, ramps, then you may be able to say, oh, I know what this is, or it's in the same family, like the mint family. So yeah, I love to eat ramps, and I actually, yeah, planted ramps. But is that your question?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
We have a question in the chat box from Lacey. You mentioned buying herbs at a nursery because seeds are difficult to start. Do you know of any nurseries in the state or region that specialize in culinary or medicinal herbs?
I don't know a specific one that doesn't also sell other plants and everything. Now, I do know, like I said, in West Virginia, in Shepherdstown, I actually interned up there it's called Sacred Roots in Shepherdstown. And they have a farm where, you know, she has sometimes pick your own this. So you really have to kind of look. There's a lot of hidden gems, but almost every greenhouse, there's some that are better than others, but my local greenhouses, they'll have the oregano, and they'll have the basil, they'll have those popular ones, and they'll even throw in the medicinal ones there too. So you kind of have to go to a lot of places. I think it's West Virginia Grows or Natural. There are some that are listed. I know West Virginia Grows in Hampshire County. There's one that's listed where you can buy. You would have to contact them, but you really have to kind of dig a little bit. That's why it's very helpful online to branch out to a lot of different herbalists, because that's where I end up getting a lot of the unique stuff. But to start out, just go and buy. You're not going to really mess up oregano or some of those. I hope that answered that.
Yeah, I think it did. I actually have a follow-up question to that one. On the flip side, are there a few that are easy to start from seed that you would suggest for someone that wanted to try it?
Wow, that's a great question. This year, I actually went crazy and bought in December, because I'm always excited. I bought a lot of medicinal herbs and seeds. Oh boy. Well, if you're growing bamboo from seed, that's easy, but I don't know too many people that want to grow that. What did I grow that really worked out? Sage wasn't too bad. Some of the bigger seeds, if you're not a real precise gardener, and I hate to say it that way because I'm not really precise. I'm one of those like, okay, I don't pay attention, and I've never had to pay attention to how big the seeds are. So like lavender is so very small that if you're not like spraying it gently with the mist of water while it's germinating, even lights, like you can probably see my little indoor greenhouse here, even with lights and a heating mat, some of them were still difficult. So, and then, you know what, sometimes I've learned that, you know, oh, these seeds didn't work, so I'm going to reuse this soil and put it into a pot, and then all of a sudden something grows. Let me look at my list. Any of the mints, you're not going to go wrong with any mints. Like if you start any mint from seed, you're probably going to do well because, like I said, they're kind of invasive. I haven't had too much luck with like to grow. So, I mean, garlic, ginger, turmeric, oregano. Oregano's not too bad. German chamomile, that actually did very well. My recommendation, if you're going to get seeds, get them from I would stay away from store-bought seeds. Some of them could be organic and could be, like if you're using them as medicine for you or your animals, you definitely want organic. So you don't want to buy anything that could have, you know, a hidden fertilizer in there. So there's a couple of places online. There's Seed Savers United online. There's True Leaf. I've found some good luck. There's medicinal, strictly medicinal herbs. If you really do a Google search for medicinal herbs, and they'll most of the time give you directions. I'm trying to grow ginseng by seed. It can take 6 months for it to even sprout. So a lot of patience. Lavender's been a hard one. Hops has been a little hard too. So it's kind of, you have to start and see what works good for you and your conditions.
Thank you. That was a great answer. I put in the chat box there, I love calendula. I was so excited you mentioned that. It's good for so many things and salves. It's one that's really easy to start from seed, just like marigold. And it also can handle a little frost, so you could still seed them now. I just did mine about a week ago.
Yeah, calendula is really, really easy. My mistake this year in my garden was not getting, well, we had a late frost too around here, but not getting the companion plants like the marigold and calendula going before I got everything else. So I still, I mean, I natural garden, but it wasn't too bad. But yeah, calendula, #1 selling skincare. Can't go wrong with that.
Does anyone else have any questions? Well, if you're not
I could ask
having
one.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
You had mentioned stinging nettles as an herb, and matter of fact, I grow it and dry it as a tea here and sell it that way. But there's another plant here on the farm that I had to look real close. It's kind of like a false stinging nettle. They look identical, but if you look at the stem real close, it is there's no stings on it. Is there any medicinal value to it compared with its neighbor, the stinging nettle?
You might be talking about wood nettle. So I didn't, not until I actually grew, sorry. It's a farm around here. Not until I actually grew stinging nettle.
Get him, boy.
Well, he never does that. That's funny. Not until I actually grew stinging nettle, it just popped up and I was like, oh, I did plant that. I guess it now decided it wants to grow. Did I recognize that there was wood nettle growing? I have a lot of woods, but so it could be wood nettle. There's also another one, snake root could look like it. There's a shorter, stockier one that, of course, doesn't have any stings called perilla. I don't know if you're familiar with perilla. Perilla, I can see when it's younger. There's a few that it could be. I would check wood nettle first.
We have one more question in the chat box. You mentioned
okay.
You still there, Russ? Do you have another question?
No, I don't.
Okay. You mentioned that you're in herbal groups on Facebook. Can you tell us the names of those groups so we can look them up to join, or just a couple of them?
I'd have to get on my Facebook. So if you're local, so the River House. So the River House is in Cape and Bridge. It's a nonprofit, and they have all kinds of, not just the herbal club, but there is an open herbal club. And if I knew Facebook a little bit better,
you can always send it in a follow-up email.
Okay, good, because I get them. I mean, the one I go to, I love is where I interned, Sacred Roots. They're wonderful people, but that's where she was taught at the guy Jim Duke, who writes a lot of these, the Bibles, and this is like your first book you should get, Medicinal Plants or Edible. She worked with him, so I really trust everything she says about herbs.
Thank you. I'll do one last call for questions. Rhonda, I just want to thank you. I learned so much tonight, and I'm sure everyone else did. We really appreciate it. That was so much information. I'm not even sure what question to start with. So everyone, if you could drop your email in the chat box, and we'll send you a link to this. That way you can have all the information she shared tonight. And I am going to share one more slide with everyone so we can see what is coming up next week. So we have a really exciting one next week for Fresh Cut Flowers. We're going to be joined by Jenny Totten and Milady Jane Cook next Tuesday at 6 o'clock right here. We really hope you can all join us. And we really appreciate Rhonda tonight. And I hope everyone learned as much as I did. And thank you so much for joining us. And we'll leave the chat box on for a couple more minutes in case anyone has questions. If not, I want to thank you, and we'll see you hopefully next week.